Good. All right. Okay, so welcome to this talk, which is titled "How to Become an Oneironaut." So, if you don't know this word, I thought that I had made it up. So, it comes from the Greek oneiro, which means dreams, and the note naftis, which means sailor. So, the sailor of dreams. Apparently, it already exists, even though it's not very used. And so, the goal of this talk, or the subject of this talk, will be lucid dreaming, and we will explain, of course, what it is. And when I was making this slide, I realized that actually the slides are not extremely useful for what I'm talking about. I'm essentially explaining things. We don't really need bullet points most of the time. Sometimes, yes. So I thought about what I could do to make them a bit more entertaining. So I got a great idea, which is to use generative AI. And generative AI has a lot of problems. So it comes up with things which look very strange, very distorted, sometimes does not follow your prompt. But I thought that for talking about dreams, it's really the perfect medium because dreams are also very similar in kind of their manifestations to the problems that generative AI has. So in each slide, I will have a picture which is loosely related to what I'm talking about. We'll not mention the picture, it's just there to decorate so you can enjoy it.
Do we have to guess the prompt?
No, so there is a title which is a condensed version of the prompt I used. So yeah, that could have been a good idea. So here I started with two interpretations. So I used most DALL-E 3 for the images. And I also used this website, which is called Canva. I don't know which model they use, but okay, one is more artistic than the other. So this is their interpretation of an Oneironaut. And so having said that, we can start. So before, I just want to give a quick definition of what are lucid dreams, and then we'll delve in kind of more of the details. So in a sentence, what lucid dreams are dreams in which you are aware. I forgot to say that if you have any questions at any time, just interrupt me. Don't hesitate. So lucid dreams are dreams where you are aware of the fact that you are dreaming, and this comes with the power to actually alterate what happens in the dream. Okay, you can kind of control the dream. So this is the short version, so you know a little bit what are we talking about. So to go a bit more details, we'll need to talk a little bit before about sleep and about regular dreams before going to lucid dreams. So this will be very short, but just an introduction about some things which will be very important to understand how lucid dreams work. So when you sleep during the night, you don't sleep in the same way throughout the night. Okay, there are different.
Sorry, can I just reduce a bit the contrast of the screen?
Yeah, sure. So you don't sleep in the same way during all the night. There are so-called phases of sleep, which are different ways of sleeping. Okay, and you go throughout all the phases during the night. And so the phase is divided in two big chunks. So the first chunk is the so-called non-rapid eye movement phases, which are itself decomposed into three not phrases, but phases. So you have N1, NREM1, which is the phase of sleep. It lasts very little. It's just the moment from where you start becoming asleep to sleeping entirely. Okay, so it's the transition between awake and sleep. Then you have NREM2, which is light sleep, where here you are really sleeping. Your brain is kind of slowing down, and your heart rate and temperature drops. And finally, you have deep sleep, which is a deeper version of light sleep, where your heart rate is even lower, your temperature lower, and your brain has really a signature of brain waves which are much less active, let's say. And by the way, so we don't know exactly what sleep is used for. We have some explanations, but deep sleep is linked to the kind of reparatory sleep, where you kind of regenerate your muscles. For example, if you do a workout during deep sleep, your body releases hormones to kind of reconstruct the muscles. If you're a child, during deep sleep, you have the growth hormones which are released. And the same goes for the brain, kind of, it's the reparatory step. But that's not very interesting for us. The most interesting part for us is the other chunk of sleep, which is called REM, or rapid eye movement. And so it's called like this because whenever you are in REM, your eyes behind your eyelids will be moving rapidly from side to side. Yes?
Can you give us order of how much the temperature drops and the heart rate drops?
Yeah, I think so. The heart rate. So, for example, for me, I have this heart rate monitor. when I'm just rested during the day, I will be around 75 to 80, which is quite high. And when I'm at the bottom of deep sleep, it's around 60. So it drops quite a bit. So people who are athletes can also get to like 40, 35 during deep sleep. It drops quite a lot, yeah. And for the temperature, I think it's on the order of 1 degree, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So yeah, REM is named like this because during this phase of sleep, your eyes are moving around, whereas in the others, they're just kind of stationary.
What is the length of this?
Yeah, I will come to that. Yeah. And the cool thing about REM is that the brain activity, if you measure it with an electroencephalogram, it looks quite close to the activity of when you're awake. Okay? So in some sense, it's very close to wakefulness, the state of your brain when you are in this period of sleep. And also, it is the phase of sleep which is associated with vivid dreams. Okay? When we remember a dream, it is 99.9% of the time from REM. You can have some very abstract dreams, especially in N1. So N1 is what happens when you're just falling asleep. Sometimes you see some imagery or you feel some things. This is called hypnagogic hallucination or images, I don't remember. But those are some sort of dreams, but they don't have a kind of good structure or a narrative, etc. So most of the kind of complicated dreams are in REM. And when we talk about dreams, we usually talk about things that happens in REM. So, right, so these are the different phases of sleep. And during the night, what will happen is that you will go through several cycles, like 4 or 5 or 6. Yes?
Sleepwalking is in what phase?
Right, so that's a good question. So I think, I haven't researched it, but I think it should be during REM, because what I didn't say is that during REM, your body also gets paralyzed to avoid yourself acting your dreams, right? So your body paralyzes your muscles such that when you run in the dream, you don't actually run in real life. So it would make sense that sleepwalking would be just the failure of this paralysis, but I'm not 100% sure. I will have to check, yeah. So yeah, so the sleep during the night is divided into cycles, and in each cycle you go through this circle that we saw before. And the amount you spend in each phase per cycle is actually very different throughout the night. So this is a graph which is indicative, it's not precise, just to give you an idea. So what you see is that for the first few cycles, a cycle lasts about 1 hour 30 on average, depends on the people. On the first few cycles, you have very deep sleep. I mean, you have a chunk of the phases which you spend in deep sleep. Whereas in the second part of the night, you essentially have no deep sleep. So all your deep sleep happens in the first 2 or 3 cycles. And the other difference is that then, okay, you don't have deep sleep, and the REM increases, the time spent in REM increases as you go further along the night. Yes?
The same question as Clément, but when you need to pee, for example.
Yes.
Like, is it during deep sleep, or also is it like, does it wait?
No. Normally, when you wake up naturally, like with no kind of external stimuli or something, it should happen in light or REM sleep. So there's another thing, yeah, when you are in deep sleep, you are also less easily woken up, actually. So it's most likely if you wake up to pee, it will wait for REM, not, I mean, if you really need to pee and it happens in deep sleep, probably you will wake up, but yeah. And essentially, when you wake up from a light sleep, you will be able to wake up much faster. If you wake up from deep sleep, you will get kind of super groggy and it will take a while to pick up. Yeah.
If you know, like, so that's the usual pattern. You have like several cycles
Yes.
overnight.
Yeah.
If you go to bed later, do you always start?
You shift the pattern?
You
Yeah.
always start with the cycle 1.
Yes, to some extent. I think it will be a bit perturbed, but usually you will start with the first cycle. So you will have deep sleep, even if you go to sleep at 6.
Okay.
But I think it will kind of depend because your hormones will be different. If you always go to sleep at midnight and then you go at 6, maybe your deep sleep will be reduced. Yeah. Yes?
It's a short one. Are there ways to maximize REM? Like
maximize REM?
Yeah, just like to sleep in some kind of way just to have as much as possible, or
So not really, because you really need all these phases of sleep for the sleep to be kind of good for your body. So if you could do only REM, it will be very bad for you. But exactly, so the point is that if you've had enough sleep, and especially if enough deep sleep, and you sleep more, for example, take a nap during the day, then this will be mostly REM. Essentially because the body already did his deep sleep, So if you sleep more, you will have REM. So this, in my experience, this is really true. So if I had a good night of sleep and then I take a nap, it will be basically only dreams. Yeah. So as you can see here in the graph, also, for example, when I do very late mornings and I just sleep way more than my body needs, it's just dream on dream on dream. So I do a dream, I wake up, then I do a dream, and then I wake up. And it's like, yeah. So that's the way kind of to chase the REM. So REM we'll talk mostly about REM. The other phases of sleep, they're not really interesting for us. So finally, okay, we know what sleep is. Now, what are dreams? So this is the Wikipedia definition, a succession of images, ideas, emotions, whatever. So that's, okay, an acceptable definition. For me, the way I see it more is kind of your brain is sort of simulating something which is close to what your senses feel during the day, right? So the brain is not really, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the way I see it. The brain is not really creating this dream environment and then doing the simulation of the physics and looking which light is going into your retina to reproduce the dream. More like it knows more or less what stimuli you receive on the retina and it just reproduces them during the dream. So you seem to see some things, some room and stuff, but it doesn't mean that your brain is kind of simulating the geometry of the room, or at least not necessarily.
Your eyes move?
Huh?
If you're just creating pictures, you don't need to move your eyes.
No, you don't need to, but if you reproduce how you feel in real life, whenever you decide to move your eye, the retina should respond accordingly, right? So you don't need to, but it's easier to simulate it like that, right? Okay, I don't know if it's true. I think nobody knows if it's true. We don't know much about dreams, actually. So, but I like to see it as that. And we'll see that we have some similarities surprisingly, between generative AI and actually images in dreams, which is very surprising because generative AI just learned to mimic images. So that leads some credence to the fact that dreams just mimic images that you see during the day. But okay. So some facts, humans spend about 2 hours dreaming per night, and each dream lasts about 1 to 20 minutes. So your REM sleep, before people thought that you were dreaming throughout the REM, then they did some experiments, I don't know exactly how, but they figured out that not all of REM sleep is actually dreams. But okay, that's just a fact. And okay, so there are some people, I mean, a lot of people that just stop dreaming in some sense when they get older, and they feel that, okay, I don't have dreams anymore. Okay, that's actually not true. You are most definitely having dreams. The only thing is that you're not remembering them. Okay, so as far as we know, everybody has dreams. The difference between having many dreams or few dreams is just the amount you remember.
It's a sign of aging.
It's not a sign of aging. I think it's just no. It's kind of related to aging. I don't know the details, but your sleep cycles and phases, they change as you age. They get shorter and shorter. I don't know how the REM phase change. Maybe there's a connection there, but it's not a sign of age. It's just that naturally, somehow, children automatically remember dreams, and then if you don't cultivate this ability, it kind of fades off.
Because I heard, I don't know if it's really
Yeah.
but like that, you have the end of the REM cycle kind of ends normally with the period where you kind of erase this memory or this kind of
Yeah, I don't know about
dream
that
memory,
actually.
and if you really finish it,
No.
usually you wake up without really.
So that's something that's true. That if you wake up during the dream, if somebody wakes you up, it's easier to remember. Yes.
If you
But
really finish the cycle, so to speak.
I think you still remember because it happens to me that I just remember a dream that I did in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, because you kind of woke up a little bit.
Maybe. But anyway, when you finish the cycle, you kind of reset the cycle. So there's some part which is kind of some portion where you are kind of awake, but not really. Sometimes you skip this N1, sometimes you don't. But yeah, I don't know about this kind of cleaning up. I'm not aware of it, but it's possible.
Do we know anything about why some people remember and some don't?
No, you'll see that everybody can remember if you train, essentially. So it's kind of a skill. So I don't know if there's any more data about that. I would say not. Okay. Most of the answers is a question about dreams. There have not been any experiments about dream or many experiments, so we don't know much essentially. Right. So, and the last question before going into the subject is, what is the point of dreams? Essentially, we don't really know. There are some theories. Some people say that it's just when your brain rearranges your kind of connections to consolidate the memories or what you learned. A byproduct of that is dreams. But then other people say that dreams kind of have an evolutionary advantage because you prepare to situations that you don't necessarily see. Some people say it's some kind of way for the subconscious to communicate to the conscious. It's very hard to test. There are no kind of real scientific studies on that, so essentially we don't really know. And the last thing about animals and dreams. So most mammals, I think at least the kind of mammals which are a bit sophisticated, they do have REM sleep.
What is unsophisticated?
Let me see.
A mouse.
No, a mouse is quite smart actually. I guess.
Kidneys or animals like
Yeah, I guess. For example, a sloth.
stuff.
Yeah. No, when I say sophisticated, I mean in terms of intelligence.
That's all.
Yeah. So there are, for example, dogs and cats do have REM sleep, but we are not 100% sure that REM sleep is equivalent to having dreams. Okay. And yeah, essentially the only reason we know that human dreams is because we're able to ask them. So that's the barrier of understanding if animals dreams or not. Yes?
No, it was related to that, like you said, everybody dreams.
Yes.
But if you meet someone say, I really never remember a single dream.
Yeah, so I think what they did is they did experiments with people and they look for these brain signals. They found a part of the brain which is active only during the dreaming phase of REM, not during the non-dreaming phase of REM. And I guess they saw that it was active even in people that didn't. But yeah, it's really hard to kind of study dreams. So
if you wake up the person directly during
the dream.
During the dream, yeah, you should remember the lesson.
Well, not always. There are some people that even like that. I mean, if you're really kind of, it's been a long time since you remember that dream, I think even that wouldn't work. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Okay, so now the first kind of touching on the lucid dreams. So one peculiar property of dreams is, of course, that things that happen in dreams are completely kind of outlandish. And we usually just go with the flow. We never question, why is there a giant elephant in my room? Or why am I a velociraptor? I don't know. It just feels correct. And you just continue as if it was reality and you never question it. Okay? Whereas if in real life something like that happened, immediately your first thing would be to question, okay, why? And this does not happen in dream. And this is very strange somehow. So I have, when I put things in orange, it means that it's something that comes from my personal experience. So here I have an anecdote related to that. So I had this dream, which was in a futuristic city, and the humans and robots were cohabitating. And the robots, they kind of have arms and legs robots, but their whole body was a big iPad. And I remember I was in a cafe and I was discussing with one of these people, and I was asking them, but do you guys actually dream or not? Like, does it work with robots? And I was discussing this, and at no point in the dream, I kind of, even talking about dreams inside the dream, does not kind of trigger this kind of questioning of, maybe this one is a dream, right? So this sort of mechanism is very strong. And I looked up to see if there was an actual scientific reason for that we know. And there kind of is. So during REM, I said most of the brain acts more or less like when you are awake. But it's not actually true. For example, this part of the brain, which is called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, is actually very inactive during REM. And this region of the brain is really associated with critical thinking, kind of abstract reasoning, planning, etc. So somehow, maybe by deactivating this part of the brain, you just deactivate your kind of critical thinking of why things are happening. Okay?
So, this is also my anecdote, so I don't know to what extent it makes sense, but it happened quite often. I was like asking the question, is it a dream?
Yeah.
Then conclusion is no, it's not a dream.
Okay.
And that's it, and then
Yeah.
not even so, I don't know, it's not like I would ask the question, it just wouldn't be.
Yeah, but you're not able to reason very good, right? Yeah. So it might be related to that, it might be more complicated than that. But something very interesting is that this part of the brain is slightly more active whenever you're doing a lucid dream. So whenever you know that you are dreaming. So probably it's related. Probably it's not the whole story, but it's interesting. So it would be cool if you could try on humans to kind of deactivate this thing while you're awake and see what happens. But I've heard that for people who suffer from psychosis and stuff like that, they usually have some problems on this part of the brain. So it's very related to being able to tell what is real and what is not. Yeah, exactly. Right. So let's go back to lucid dream finally. So before, the definition I had for lucid dream was a dream in which you realize you are dreaming. But then the past week I've been discussing with some people that told me that they actually have dreams in which they actually know that it's a dream, but they are still unable to do anything they want. They just have to follow the kind of story of the dream. So me, such a thing never happened, but there are two different people that told me about this.
The third one now.
Third one, yeah, okay, great. And so now I add to the definition of lucid dream that it's a dream where you know you dream and you are able to act with this knowledge to kind of control the dream to some extent. So so usually, at least for me, what used to happen is that I had some dreams where I suddenly realize I'm dreaming, but it would usually just result in me waking up just after. So I don't know if somebody else experienced this. If you have this thing, can you raise your hand if you...
Can you repeat exactly?
So the question is, did you have dreams where you realize you are dreaming, but this caused you to wake up immediately? I see that there is a lot of people that experience this. So for me, especially, it was in nightmares. So I had this common nightmare theme when I was younger, which was I was in a room and it would look super shady. And then I would say that something is not right. And at some precise point, I would say, I know why, this is a nightmare. And then at the moment I would realize this, the whole hell would break loose. Like I would have like 3 people jumping me at the exact moment and I would wake up. So but it was really, nothing happened until I realized it was a nightmare. And then that's when kind of I got attacked. But
It was not a nightmare before.
It was kind of a nightmare because it was scary. Kind of the location was scary, but not so scary. It was kind of off. So I remember one especially, I was in my house, everything was dark. And so I was walking, trying to understand why nobody was here. And then I look in the mirror and I say, oh shit, this is a nightmare. And then kind of the mirror turns, I become a skull in the mirror and kind of come out of me or something like that. Anyway. So in lucid dreams, what happens is that you have this moment of realization, but you are able to keep staying in the dream and keep experiencing the dream.
To fight off the 3 men.
Yeah, exactly. You can turn around nightmares if you're really good.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I could work very hard on some problem, like with programming or math.
Yes.
And then in the dream, I can actually solve that problem. And
Okay.
I can realize that.
I see.
I think this is also falls into this lucid dream thinking, right?
Well,
It's a different one.
I think it's different because did you know that it was a dream and you were working in the dream?
Yes.
You knew it was a dream.
So yeah, it's
Then yes, definitely was. Then I think that qualifies as lucid dream.
because you said that this part of the brain that is responsible for like logical thinking or something.
Yeah, it's less active. So for me, I also very often I had dreams when I was studying for an exam all night. Then I went to sleep. I had a dream where I kind of still studying or solving things.
Yeah, exactly.
And inside the dream, it made perfect sense. Like I had a huge theorem or whatever. And then when I wake up, I realized, I was integrating the bathroom. Like it was it was literally that. Like when I wake up, I realized that this was what I was doing. And that was crazy. I mean, and this was exactly the reasoning problem. But okay, maybe in your dreams, the thing were more active. Like this is a true story. I remember vividly that this was my solution. But, anyway.
So it's not only like the abstract thing, so it could be something.
Yeah, but if it was a lucid dream, then this part of the brain is kind of more active. So, but usually, doing math and stuff, there have been some experiments on that. It's harder in dreams, even in lucid dreams. Right. So when you are in a lucid dream, you are aware that everything is kind of fake, made by yourself. And that anything you do is inconsequential. So you are never scared of something happening. You're aware that this is created by you, and as such, you can also control it.
And what do you mean you're not scared of something happening?
Well, for example, if you're in a lucid dream and kind of you arrive in a place where there's a huge drop, you will not be scared to jump because you know that nothing can harm you in some sense. Yeah.
If the realization is, I'm dreaming, and this is by definition something I create, and therefore there is no risk.
Yeah.
This sounds like a very correct and somewhat sophisticated reasoning.
Because no, of course.
So how does it work with the?
Yeah, this I don't know, but what I know is that when you realize you are dreaming, the brain signature is different from when you're just normally dreaming. Your brain is more active. So I guess you can do more reasoning and memory thinking and stuff when you are lucid dreaming. Yeah, that's definitely true. There was another question.
Yeah, you said you don't have your critical thinking.
Yeah.
You said
He solved.
logical.
Logical.
So what's the difference?
No, but this part of the brain is
Is it
supposed
the
to be
same
also abstract reasoning and stuff. So I think it falls into that. You should not be able to get, but
I don't remember what I
Because
said,
yeah,
but I remember.
but everything I'm saying is not kind of super precise. Of course, it's very different among people, etc. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's not like set in stone. Yeah. Right. And the nice thing about lucid dreams is that even though technically you are creating all the scenarios and all the stuff, it can still remain surprising. So you can be surprised by stuff that happens, even though it's your brain making it.
Actually, yeah, I just remember another anecdote. Someone told me that if you eat bananas before you sleep, you have like lots of brain activities,
Right.
and lots of dreams.
Yeah, there are some.
But I tried and it didn't work.
Yeah, no. There are some foods that are supposed to help you lucid dreaming, and there was like a list like that. Basically, every food. I think it's probably bullshit.
My colleague at work, he said that he eats banana every time before the sleep.
I see. Okay.
Very calm.
Might work for him, yes. Ouais, excusez-moi. Bah, c'est l'interprétation. Right. So the goal of this talk is really to teach you how to lucid dream, and I realize it's going to be a bit longer than 1 hour. But if you feel like leaving before, no worries. I will not be offended. So the goal of this talk is really to teach you how to lucid dream, because it's something that a priori everybody can do. Right? And in fact, a statistic says that there is 50% of the population that has had at least a lucid dream once. So I want to poll the people here. Raise your hand if you think that you have already had a lucid dream once. Right, yeah, it's even more than 50%. So we have good, I guess it's the kind of selection bias of coming to this talk. Right. And so there's another statistic.
We're here to share the lucid dream experience.
And and another statistics, which it feels too high to me, but less than 25% of people has lucid dreams monthly. So just to poll here, raise your hand if you think you have more than one lucid dream a month. Okay. Yeah, so this is more kind of in line with my expectation. I would say it's like 2-3% of the people.
But that's actually very interesting because I was like checking. I'm recording my sleep, and I was checking this rapid eye movement.
Yeah.
And I think only a few times a month I wake up with a rapid eye movement sleep ending. So sometimes I have the rapid eye movement and then light sleep, and then
you wake up there.
So and I think this actually works like this shutdown, because most of the time I don't.
This eraser. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. It's interesting.
Only once a month.
But also you have to know that because you're monitoring with the watch, right?
Yeah.
It's not very accurate. Yeah. The real way to monitor it is with brain waves. There are some devices you can buy that you can wear during the night, and it kind of records the brain waves and tell you exactly which phase of sleep you were. So it's also possible that your thing is inaccurate. But it might be, this erasure thing might be, I don't know. So so the key is that this lucid dreaming is a trainable skill, and it's not very hard to train. So the goal is give you an overview of the different steps that you need to train yourself to lucid dream, and give you some ideas of what you can do in lucid dreams. So the sources that I've used is mostly this website, which actually exists since 1996. And and otherwise it was personal experiments. So essentially I started this kind of lucid dreaming experiments when I stumbled on this website. So all the things I know, it kind of mostly come from this website and the forum. And the forum is very fun to read. There are people that are really crazy, honestly crazy, the thing. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about the anecdotes later, but it's a very fun forum to scroll. And I think it was maybe 9 or 10 years ago where I started doing this kind of training. and it worked pretty well. And yeah, so I will draw also for personal experience to explain. Okay, so let's get started. So this is kind of a plan of the remaining part of the talk. So I will divide the way to reach lucid dreaming in 5 steps. So the first step is, of course, to dream frequently, and by that I mean remember your dreams frequently. The second step is to start questioning reality. We'll see what it means. The third one is to learn to remain lucid whenever you become lucid in a dream. The step 4 is essentially some advanced techniques to make it more likely that you have lucid dreams, but you will see why I call them advanced techniques. And the step 5 is just, okay, once you are able to lucid dream, I will just give you some ideas of what you can do and what are the limitations, because there are some limitations, not many, but there are some.
Do you think that there is a correlation between like when you dream during the day?
Daydreaming?
Yeah, daydreaming and night dreaming.
Yeah, so I've read some people that say that daydreaming during the day increases the amount of either dreams or lucid dream during the night. But that's to the extent I have it. Right. So the first step, yeah. Daydreaming is just when you kind of drift off during the day and think about things. You're not asleep.
But, wait,
yeah.
Is the name daydreaming accurate?
No.
It's different than dreaming because.
No, it's just
losing focus.
Just a name that you give to the fact. Yeah, it's not some precise state of the brain or whatever, as far as I know. Right, so the first step is very easy. There is essentially, as far as I know, just one way to start recalling your dreams more, okay? And the solution, the goal that you want to aim for lucid dreaming is to remember roughly at least one dream per night, okay? So for me, it's the case, at least it was not the case 2 weeks ago, because I kind of abandoned this thing about lucid dreaming. But as soon as I started preparing this talk, etc., it kind of came back and I started dreaming at least once a day. And the way you do that is very simple. You just need to keep the so-called dream journal. Okay. So what is a dream journal? It's simply a journal. It can be physical, it can be an app, it can be whatever you want, where you write down whatever you remember from your dreams when you wake up. Okay. There are some tricks to kind of maximize the amount of stuff you remember to write in your journal. And the way I do it is as following. When I become awake, just naturally, with an alarm, it's a bit more annoying, but okay. Say you wake naturally. The first thing you do is that you should not move. You should just stay still, keep your eyes closed, and try to recall a dream that you've had. Try to see if you recall something. If you don't recall absolutely nothing, whatever, you try next time. But if you do, what you do first is that you rerun the dream in your mind. So this means not just recalling it, kind of try and tell yourself the story of the dream. So if you saw a boat walking in the distance, you don't just see the boat, just really consciously tell you, yeah, I saw a boat in the distance and then this happened and then. Essentially, you tell yourself the story. And what this will do, essentially, it will transfer it from the kind of short-term dream memory to the normal waking memory where you remember things more. So once you told yourself the story, you can kind of take your journal and write it down from this account. Yeah.
How do you know this works? Because notoriously, memory is a bit flimsy, and the more you retell, the more you make stuff up.
But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's accurate or not. The exercise of trying to remember your dream is what matters.
But there's still a limit. I cannot wake up, remember absolutely nothing, and tell myself, oh, I dreamt of a boat.
No, of course. If you don't remember anything, you don't remember anything. And you don't write anything.
But if I feel like I'm remembering, then it's...
Yes, exactly. Even if you remember just like one image or a feeling, you remember feeling happy, you kind of try to remember that and write it down. Right. And so just this thing about not moving and recalling the dream, I say it because in my experience, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but I've had moments where I woke up, I was remembering the dream perfectly, and then I just moved like that, and the dream just disappears from my memory. Like it's a very strange sensation. I just feel the dream disappearing, and kind of I remember just bits and parts. Yeah. So I think it's really something somehow. Yeah, you need really to rerun the dream before you move. So of course, if you have an alarm, it's not ideal because you have to turn off the alarm, but when you're trained enough, you will still remember. Right, and so just to finish, so the idea of this dream journal, essentially what it does, we don't know exactly how it works, but the idea is that since you try to recall your dream every night and you write it down, your brain will associate remembering dream with something which is useful or something that must be done, right? And so you will see that as you do this, for example, let's say you dream almost nothing, you have one dream per week, you write it down, you'll see that slowly you'll have more and more dreams that you recall, just simply because presumably your brain says, okay, actually we need to remember dreams because we're kind of trying to recalling it, writing them down. And that's why also when you're a child, you naturally usually remember dreams, but if you don't pay any mind to them, essentially, your brain decides that it's not useful remembering dream and just stop doing it. That's my interpretation, at least, or the interpretation of the community. Okay, that's the first step. So assume now you are dreaming reasonably frequently. The step 2 is to realize that you are dreaming. And the way you're going to do that is by questioning reality. So here I have a quote from Inception. By the way, a lot of things that happen in Inception are inspired from this lucid dreaming community. For sure, I don't know if they said it, but it's clear that it is. And so we have this citation of Cobb, which is one expert dreamer that tells to the new dreamer that to try and see if she recalls how she got there. And when she tries to do this reasoning, she realizes that she doesn't know, and so that she's dreaming. Okay. So it's very fun because in this community, they have a name for all of these techniques and they like to give acronyms. So we'll see by the end of the talk, you will know all the different acronyms of the different techniques. And so the first and simplest way for become lucid or for having a lucid dream is just to turn a regular dream into a lucid dream, meaning that you have a regular dream and then suddenly you realize that you are dreaming. Okay? So we said that no matter the absurdity of the dream, usually this does not happen, but somehow, as we've seen that people have experienced lucid dreams, somehow just randomly, sometimes our brain realizes we are dreaming. Okay, and for this I have a very fun anecdote. So I had this dream where I was in my apartment and it was essentially a zoo. So in every room I would go in, there was a different animal. So in the kitchen there was an elephant. I would go in a room, they have rhinoceros. I would go into the bathroom, there would be a dolphin in the bathtub. And then I go into the living room and I had an aquarium at the time in real life. And I see the aquarium and the aquarium is absolutely filled with fish. And so I remember thinking in the dream, you're not supposed to put that many fish into the tank. Okay, that must be a dream then. And then I became lucid, right? So it's really, really strange because, the elephant in the kitchen is fine. However, 20 fish in the tank, it's kind of pushing it, right? So sometimes it just happens randomly with no apparent reason. And what we want to do is make these moments more common, to make them occur more and more. And so there are several ways to do this. The first general advice is to be in the lucid dream kind of ambience or mindset. So what this means is to immerse yourself in everyday life in this concept of lucid dreaming. So for example, like you're doing right now, following this seminar is part of this step, right? And in fact, an anecdote about that, I remember that we were talking with Clément about lucid dreams, I don't know, it was 1 year ago or something. And the same night after this discussion, Clément had a lucid dream, right? So it's really 2 nights after, yeah, okay. But it's still the same thing. So this is the first advice. It's kind of read blogs, or the one I really advise is just read this LD for All forum because it's hilarious. So this is a good thing. So for example, at night before going to sleep, instead of scrolling Twitter or whatever, just scroll this forum for 10 minutes. And this is already good enough. So this is what I was saying. And the way this works is essentially just the same. It's the power of suggestion, right? You're kind of making your brain thinking more about dreams and lucid dreams and this concept. So it's just more likely to come up in an actual dream. Okay, and this is crazy how well it works. If you just binge stuff about lucid dreams. So when I first started learning about that, I was super excited. I was dreaming about. I was dreaming, yes, also, but I was reading about dream stuff every day. And after 1 week, I just got my first lucid dream, right? Just by reading stuff. So this is very effective. I don't remember this anecdote, so we're just gonna slip it. Yeah.
You never had lucid dream before.
Before that, yeah, I think I had some just random when I was a child, like just realizing I dream.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Seems like when we were younger.
Yeah, but it's also because you have a bigger sampling data set, right? Because you remembered much more dreams. So it's more likely that you have a lucid dream. So this actually, I don't know. I asked myself the question: is it possible to have a lucid dream and don't remember it? It's hard to test again. You could test it, but I don't know if it's possible or not. Right. So another technique, which is very cool because it really looks like you're in Inception, is the so-called reality checks. So a reality check is a simple action that you can do immediately, and that will behave differently in real life from dreams. So if you saw Inception, in Inception they have a thing called a totem. So it's a small piece of something like a spinning top. And essentially I'm simplifying, but when you spin the spinning top inside a dream, it will never stop spinning, whereas in real life it will stop spinning. So the concept is exactly the same, but simpler. You don't need that spinning top. And it's based on the fact that some peculiarities of dreams are actually consistent. So there are some strange things that happen in dreams that happen consistently in almost all dreams. So the first thing is that reading text in a dream is quite hard. Usually the text will kind of morph, kind of change shape, or just be unreadable. And this is also kind of linked, I remember reading, I don't remember where, to the fact that the part of your brain that kind of is active when you read is kind of deactivated. One fun thing that is very related to generative AI is the hands are usually very strange. So if you look at your hands in a dream, usually you will have not the good amount of fingers, or it will kind of change or morph. And this is kind of, when I saw that this happened with diffusion models, I was very, very surprised. Another thing that happens in dream is that you can breathe no matter what, okay? Because your body is in real life able to breathe. So even if you jump in water or you pinch your nose, you can breathe. And physics is unreliable. So there are some things that really don't work well in dreams. And for example, one example is light switches. So if in a dream you kind of turn off the light, sometimes it won't do anything. Sometimes it just slightly dim the lights, but it usually won't work well. Not sure why, but it's like that. So now that you know these peculiarities, you can design reality checks, okay? So some common reality checks is pinching your nose and try to breathe through it, right? So I do it, okay, I cannot breathe, then it means that I'm not in a dream. Then another thing which I really like, this one, the one I use mostly, is to just take two fingers and try to go through your palm. This will fail in real life, except if you push very hard. And in dreams, you will usually just go through your hand.
I have a question
yes?
about this. If the brain simulates the senses that we get in real life during the dreams, isn't like...
it should, but there are some things, somehow it struggles to simulate well. Yeah. And it's, we don't really know why, but I'm not saying that all the reality checks will work. What people say usually is to have 2 or 3 and do them in succession.
No, because this is really common. Like I had a friend of mine who studied, and she always told me that during the day she would try this.
Okay, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. So another thing is looking at text or your watch, because you should not be able to read or it will be very strange. Change it, turn a light switch, and count your fingers. Okay, this is very fun. Just like in AI, to see if you are in a dream, you just count your fingers. You usually won't count to 10, 8, 12, something like that. And okay, so what is the goal of these reality checks? Of course, when you are in real life, you are never doubting whether you are in a dream or not, right? Here, I'm 100% sure that I'm not in a dream, but still, you should do this reality check. You have to do it also if you're certain. Okay, the goal is building a habit of doing these checks. And that way, if it's just kind of a reflex of doing this every 5 minutes, not 5 minutes, but every 10 minutes, probably it will happen while you dream, right? So if it's something that you do every day, it will probably seep into your dream, and just by chance, you have just a random dream and you do this, and then it goes through, and then you realize that you're dreaming. So this is the goal. The goal is just for reality check to become something that you do kind of mindlessly without thinking, and for it to seep inside dreams. So the one I personally use are mostly the fingers in the palm and the pinching the nose, because they're very easy to do. You don't need an accessory like a watch. And
these people in the street are not weird. They're just
exactly. Yeah.
Really, so every 10 minutes is the order?
No. It's just something that you should do. You should not aim for some frequency. You should do something that sometimes pops in your head and you do it. Right. So this is another technique which is called wake back to bed, or WBTB, as they call it. So this is very simple. The point is that, as we said, the REM part of sleep is in the second part of night, right? Let me just check the time. So the goal of wake back to bed is to wake up during the second part of night and go back to sleep into a phase of sleep which is most likely REM, or REM very soon, okay? And so what you should do is, it's a bit annoying, this technique, you can do it on weekends, for example. You should set an alarm, or if like me, I usually wake up once a night. So what you should do is kind of put an alarm after 4 or 5 hours and really wake up. Don't just go back to sleep right away. Try to wake up and stay awoken for like 20, 30 minutes. And ideally, you would look up stuff about dreams or lucid dreams, okay? And then after you did this for 30 minutes, you just go back to sleep. So I realize for some people, it's hard going back to sleep when you wake up after 5 hours. For me, it's not the case. I'm very fortunate that I can just go back to sleep with no problem, but yeah. So the goal is the same as the lucid dreaming mindset. It's just that you do this just before you are going into a REM phase of sleep. And so this suggestion is very close to kind of the dreams. So that's why it works much better. And so in my experience, this wake back to bed is really, very effective. Like most of the lucid dreams I have are usually after one of these things.
Okay, I didn't get how do you control, you wake up, you put an alarm so that you wake up just before the run?
No, you just wake up like 5 hours into your sleep. So this means that when you go back to sleep, you will go back to sleep in the third, fourth, or fifth cycle.
Oh, okay.
And this cycle is mostly REM.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So this is why I had to explain this stuff about sleep in the beginning. So another technique is this mild mnemonic-induced lucid dreaming. And this was introduced by the first lucid dreaming researcher, Laberge. And so this is Laberge. He's American, but actually, yeah. So this can be applied whenever you wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, just after a dream, and you recall your dream, right? And it goes like this. So you begin by recalling your dream, and then you kind of do a sort of self-suggestion or self-hypnosis. You tell yourself like 3 or 4 times, I'm going to dream and I will be aware of my dream. But you just tell yourself this in your head. Don't speak it physically. And then what you do is kind of visualize yourself back into the same dream, but you visualize yourself realizing that you are dreaming, right? So you visualize yourself becoming lucid. And what you do is kind of repeat these 2 steps a few times. So repeat the mantra, then imagine yourself. Repeat the mantra, then imagine yourself. Usually if you're quite tired, you will just fall asleep after 2 or 3 times. And apparently this increases the amount of lucid dreams you have. Personally, these things doesn't work too much for me. Okay, I've got mild results for this.
I think it works better on Americans.
Huh?
I think it works better on Americans.
On Americans because of this repeating.
I can do it.
I can do it. Yeah. Probably there is some selection bias there, but okay, you can try it and see if it works for you. For me, it doesn't work very well, but it's one which is kind of in his experiments. When he got the kind of the subject of the experiments, he had to teach them to lucid dream because at the time not many people were doing it, and the way he taught them is like that. So it must have some efficacy because he actually had studies of people lucid dreaming. So it means that he was successful in making people lucid dream. And so this is another technique, a new one. I'll just go very quickly over it. When I say new, it means it was kind of invented 10 years ago. But when I started learning about lucid dreams, it was not really popular. But I saw some forum posts where people were saying that it works very well. And this technique you should do after a wake back to bed. And it's again a cycle, but what you do is kind of focus on your senses, okay? So for example, you focus on your vision, even though, you're in a position for sleeping, you close your eyes, you focus on your vision for like 5 seconds. Even if you don't see anything, you just focus on it. Then focus on hearing, then focus on touch. Repeat this 3 times fast, and then you repeat it these 3 times, spending a bit slower, so spending like 20 seconds on each of the focusing steps. And here, for some people, for example, when you focus on your vision, when you have the eyes closed, some people see some things, like some lights, some stuff. So this is a good sign if you see this. If you don't, it's fine. I don't, for example. And after you do these kind of 6 cycles, you just stop and try to go back to sleep. And people have said that this works pretty well, and it generates lucid dreams. The mechanism behind this one, I really have no idea. But yeah, I haven't have trying to try it because I discovered this like a few days ago. Okay, so these are most of the techniques for lucid dreamings. And so now we'll see how you do to stabilize the dream. Okay. So the first time, or maybe the second for most of you, but the first time that you do a lucid dream that you intended to do, right? For example, you do the wake back to bed, you go to sleep, and then suddenly, you realize in your dream. Okay. What's most likely to happen is that you will just wake up. Okay. That's sad, but it's like that. The first few lucid dreams you do, usually you just wake up immediately after becoming lucid. And when you are starting to wake up from a lucid dream, it's usually not instant. You kind of see there is a process of the dream destabilizing and kind of waking up. It actually looks similar to Inception, where things kind of starts falling apart and then you start waking up. And there are some methods which are very strange, but they work very well by experience, to stabilize the dream. So usually when a dream is destabilized, what you will see happening is just that your vision of the dream is getting darker or narrower. You start seeing things less good. Or maybe you start even feeling your body in your bed, whereas you are still in the dream. And so some things to stabilize is just focusing on your lungs, so looking at your hands. Also rubbing your hands very fast. This was very well for me. I mean, super strange. So you are in a lucid dream, everything starts becoming dark, you do this, and then everything is back in 4K, all full definition. It's very strange. Another thing that works extremely well, which is very strange, is just to say, lucidity times 100, and then So I've had instances where I was in the dream and things were kind of becoming very shady. I was not seeing well. I just screamed this lucidity times 100, and then immediately everything is perfectly clear. It's very strange, but it really works. I mean, it's so stupid, but it does work. Yeah. So, for example, when I was reading these forums, right, and I was seeing this thing, I say, these people are completely insane. I mean, there is no way this works. But I tested it; it does work.
So if you hear your neighbours in the middle of the night shouting, "I'm staying there," it's too late.
Exactly. Yeah, and then there is one last thing that you can do is start spinning on yourself very fast. This also is supposed to stabilize the dream. But in my experience, when I tried this, when the dream starts destabilizing, it usually would wake me up. But for some people, this works well. In my experience, not. But
Should you train it in reality as well?
This is fine to do only in the dreams. I think it's better if you do it only in the dreams. And so the last thing, which is kind of hard to do, and that's usually why you wake up for the first few lucid dreams, is that if you get too excited, you will wake up. So usually what happens is that you say, "Oh yes, I did my lucid dream," and then you wake up. Okay. So to the extent that it is possible, you should try to remain reasonably calm. So this is the first thing. So this will happen the first few times, and you'll see that as you have more lucid dreams, they will start to become longer and longer. And then you have another challenge, which is quite interesting, is remaining lucid during the dream. Okay, because you might think that this is a one-way switch. When you realize that it's a dream, it's kind of impossible to forget that it's a dream. But actually, it's very possible, and very often it happens, right? So, for example, if you're lucid and you start going along with the dream, like following the narrative of the dream, most of the time you just kind of forget that you are dreaming and you lose your lucidity. And the way to prevent this, at least in the beginning, is to make a to-do list of what you will do in the dream. So this was very well. So before going to sleep, and attempting to have a lucid dream, you should have a to-do list. Okay, I will try flying. I will try throwing some fireballs. I will try such and such. Okay, and you have really to know this to-do list, because otherwise what happened, in my experience, it happened very many times. So I do a lucid dreams when I wasn't trying, right? I just end in a lucid dream, and then I say, okay, what can I do? And then I just lose the lucidity. So you need, when you arrive in the dream, you say, okay, great, let's do my stuff on the to-do list. And as all of these things, when you get more experience, they become more and more stable, so you don't really need to do this anymore. But in the beginning, it's super useful.
Do you visualize the to-do list?
Not necessarily. You just have to have a list that you refer to when you become lucid of things that you want to do. Right, so here there are some common first-time experience that you can try in your lucid dream, put on to-do list. Flying is probably the most suggested thing to do the first time, because it's kind of very cool and very easy to kind of remember. You can also talk to dream people, and you can explore specific worlds or stuff, but we'll talk more about what you can do later.
Give a seminar.
Huh?
Give a seminar.
Give a seminar, for example. Yeah, no, it's fine. Right, and then there is another very fun thing. This is just because it's fun. You cannot do very much about it, but one common way that you will lose lucidity is by having what's called a false awakening. So again, referring to inception, this is when you are in a dream within a dream, and you wake up from one dream, but you still are in a dream, right? So this happens very, very often. It's very common. You have a lucid dream, and then you just, destabilizes, and you wake up, but actually you're still in a dream. And usually, this brain, the brain takes advantage of this shift, and you just forget that you are in a dream. And yeah, so the thing is that you might say, okay, but well, if I wake up and I'm on the moon, I will know again that I dream, but actually it's not the case. So here I have a very on-topic anecdote. So I was in this lucid dream, and my to-do list was trying to kind of fight some zombies with a katana. So I arrive in my dream, I'm in an abandoned shed, and then I think to myself, okay, in this box I will find a katana, I open it, I have the katana, I put it on myself. I go out of the shed, and I think in my mind, there will be a horde of zombies out of the house. So I come out of the house, there is the horde of zombies, and I start kind of fighting and stuff. And then the dream destabilizes, and I wake up. And I wake up inside Hogwarts from Harry Potter. Okay? And I'm in this bed inside Hogwarts, and there is Dumbledore that comes. And he says, so did you manage to do a lucid dream? And I was saying, yeah, dude, it was amazing. Yeah. I was in this lucid dream, and then there were zombies, and I was explaining this to Dumbledore, and I was not lucid. So yeah, the false awakening is really powerful tool from your brain to just put you back in a normal dream. A possible solution is you could develop the habit of doing a reality check or two every time you wake up, such that if you get a false awakening, your reflex will be to do a reality check and kind of counter it. They do fail sometimes, yes. Sometimes they do fail. But usually, because in your mind, the reality check is so much associated with lucid dreaming, it usually kind of connects. Whereas seeing strange stuff is not directly associated with lucid dreaming. But the reality check has such a big association that even if you do a reality check and it fails, sometimes you just realize you're in a dream because of other stuff, right? Just because it made the association. And it also happens to have several false awakenings in a row. So for me, the maximum was 3. So 3 times I've awoken inside a new dream. So everything I'm saying is 100% true. I'm not making anything up. All this comes from my journal of dreams that I've kind of reread recently, and all of this comes from this. So it's So step 4, we're coming close to the end. I would say like 20 more minutes. Step 4 is forcing lucidity. Okay, so until now we saw techniques to kind of encourage lucid dreams, but we haven't found a way to have them reliably. Okay, you can do all this stuff that you want. Maybe if you're unlucky, you will not have a lucid dream. So incredibly, there are methods to just force a lucid dream and kind of have it 100% of the time. And this is by a technique which is called wake-induced lucid dreaming. Okay, so as you might guess from the name, this means that you enter a lucid dream from being awake. So what this means is that you go to sleep without ever losing consciousness. So you go to sleep consciously. The first time I've read that, I thought, okay, because in these forums you have this post about this stuff, and you have a post about out-of-body experiences, and people say, I went out of my body, I was seeing myself, and I could explore my house, and this was a real out-of-body experience. So there's a lot of bullshit. So the first time I read this, I said, it's probably bullshit. I don't see that you can fall asleep consciously, right? But it actually is possible, and I know it's possible because I've done it a few times. The caveat is that, of course, you cannot do this wild when you enter a phase of sleep which is other than REM, okay? Because the other phases of sleep, your brain is so deactivated that you're essentially not possible to be conscious. But in REM, it's possible because of lucid dreaming. And so when you attempt this wild, you should do it in the second half of the night, because that's where you have most REM. And then here it's possible that you fall asleep directly into REM. Or during a nap. Nap also works. Of course, this technique is one of the advanced techniques. Okay, it's very hard to achieve. Yes?
How does your body know it's a nap and doesn't
push
you straight into deep?
So if you take your nap very late, you probably go into kind of the deep sleep. But if you take your nap, let's say in the middle of the day, and you woke up at like 8, your body has this internal clock, and it knows that it does not need deep sleep yet.
So this is assuming you've had
a reasonable night.
A reasonable amount of sleep.
Yeah, if you slept 3 hours and you take a nap, it will probably have some deep sleep and not much REM. Yes.
This I can confirm from experience.
Okay. So this wild is possible. It's very challenging to achieve because in some sense you have to be relaxed enough to fall asleep, but not conscious enough not to drift away and just fall asleep regularly. Okay. So there are some methods to achieve this. It will not just happen by its own. And usually for me, 100% of my wilds were either doing a wake back to bed or during a nap. It never happened any other time. Or after awaking naturally, yeah, sure. So the way you do it, or you try to do it, is that you settle for sleep and you relax. You can do some breathing exercise just to relax. Can I open this? Right, so this is to get relaxed. And one way to do it is to start counting in your head, right? You just, in your head, you think 1, I'm dreaming, 2, I'm dreaming, 3, I'm dreaming, and you keep counting, you never reset, okay? In my experience, usually I never go above 50. You usually fall asleep before, sometimes with a while, sometimes not. Okay, and the thing that you should be looking for is the so-called hypnagogic imagery, which is the N1 kind of dreams. And this can be very different depending on people. Most people report seeing seeing some lights, some shining lights in their vision. Some people also hear some things. You can see color shapes, or you can hear buzzing noises usually. For me, for example, it's almost no colors, but I get a really loud buzzing noise in my ear when I start falling asleep. So this kind of, every time I do this while, if I start hearing the buzzing noise, I know I probably succeed. And yeah, what's super, super cool, so even in and of itself, the wild thing is really an incredible experience, unrelated to the fact if you lucid dream after or not. But at some point, yeah, so this noise will become, so for me, the buzzing is very loud and then it grows less loud. And the few times that happened is that I start seeing like a point of light, and at some point it grows super fast and I just kind of fall inside the dream. Right? Yeah. So this is usually what happens. And actually, when I was preparing this talk, I said, okay, well, let's put an alarm 6 hours after I go to sleep and let's try to do a wild. I was not expecting it to work because it's very hard. I would say I've done like maybe 10 or 15 in total. And I start doing the thing and I do another technique that I will just explain now. And this time I had the buzzing noise, but I started seeing kind of some pixels that are slowly lighting up. Like if I have a screen and pixels light up. So the pixel became more and more dense, and at some point they kind of flipped, the image appeared, and I was kind of inside the dream. and I was inside my apartment, and I hadn't done a to-do list because I didn't expect it to work. So I started saying, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And then the dream started destabilizing. I rubbed my fingers. It worked. So I say, okay, I remember what I want to do is finding my dream guide. We'll see what it is later. And and so I go in my house and I think, okay, the dream guide will be behind the door. I open the door and just my father comes running. He was not the dream guide because he didn't stop for me. So I say, okay, forget the dream guide. I'm just gonna go talk to my father, which is a dream character. And then the dream destabilized again and I just woke up. So, yeah.
Just a question. You said, so you count 1, I'm dreaming, 2, I'm dreaming, and you never stop. But then you said you never went above 50. So at some point you still stop.
No, you just fall asleep.
Yeah, but...
I don't know.
So
okay, yeah, sorry. That's a good, yeah. So when you start having this hypnagogic imagery, you will know when it happens. You can stop counting and just try to focus on the imagery or the sounds. So that's when you stop counting. Usually what happens is that you will just fall asleep, right? It's like counting sheep. At some point you fall asleep. And when I say I never go above 50, it means that either I go to sleep or I successfully do the thing. Right? Or some days which are really not asleep, I just stop counting after 50 because I'm bored. Yeah, so the experience of actually entering the dream, this is very different according to people, but it's really very strange experience. I mean, it's really amazing. Then you have this finger-induced lucid dreaming field. So this is just a different way of achieving the wild. You see now you know all the acronyms, right? If I tell you WBTB, field, wild, etc. So this is, instead of counting, to remain conscious, what you do is that you take your 2 fingers and you start tapping it. Okay, so you go into a comfortable position, close your eyes, and then start tapping your finger, but very, very slightly. Okay, for me, for example, I don't even tap the fingers. I just kind of put a little bit of force on each finger, just concentrate on these 2 fingers and do this kind of movement or think about this movement. And stay concentrated on this tapping. And this will kind of be your lifeline to remain conscious as you fall to sleep. And then the same will happen. Okay, if you do it well, you will start to have this hypnagogic imagery. Then you can start focusing on that. And if you're calm enough, because the first times I started hearing the buzzing, I say, oh yeah, this is it. And then I wake up. Of course, you should not get excited by what's happening. So it's kind of hard also. Yeah, and so the fun thing about this field, but also about the wild. So I was doing this field in my room, and I start hearing the buzzing, and then the buzzing kind of stops, but I have no image. There was not this zip. So I say, okay, fuck, I failed. And then I open my eyes and I say, okay, wait a minute, and I do the reality check, and I was actually in the dream. So this is an occasion where I didn't have this kind of image entering the dream. I just felt that I just failed and woken up. And when I opened my eyes, I was in the dream. And so the next thing I did was just open the window and kind of jump and fly. And yeah, that's one thing I want to say. It will never, ever happen that you, even when you do all this stuff, it will never happen that you think that you are dreaming when you are in reality. This is impossible. It's very possible to think you are in reality when you are dreaming, but the converse literally never happened. I've never had a moment in my life where I said, maybe just after waking up, these 5 seconds, but it's not enough time to jump out of the window.
When you do the reality check, like, what's your, and it fails, you realize you're in a dream, like, you're always super surprised. Like, what's your reaction?
Yeah, well, no, usually, yeah, after a while, you're not so surprised. After a while, you say, okay, it's a dream. Nice. It's cool, yeah. But you're not so surprised, right? Kind of your brain takes over. It's not surprising. Just that you always knew in some sense that it was a dream, right? When you wake up, you're not surprised that you had this dream. You kind of always knew it was a dream, you just didn't realize it in some sense. And the same as happens when you lucid dream. You say, actually it's a dream. Okay, so this is a fun part of the thing. So I would say it's the only danger of lucid dreaming, and it's what's called sleep paralysis. So just to have a poll, can you raise your hand if you've had sleep paralysis? Okay, that's about it. I'd say about 5% of people will have several sleep paralysis. So yeah, I will explain what it is. So during the wild, we said that you reach REM consciously, right? But we also said that during REM, your body is paralyzed to avoid your dreams being acted out. So what this means is that at some point during this falling asleep, you have a point where your body actually becomes paralyzed, right? In my experience, I really don't feel it. Like, it's not like you feel that you are paralyzed. Anyway, you are not moving, right? So usually you don't notice it, but it is happening. So, right. So, yeah, if you can somehow feel it or somehow something wakes you up and you panic, you might kind of wake up. Usually you just wake up and that's it. You failed your wild, you were almost there, you wake up. Okay, it's a bit sad, but that's fine. But it is possible to end in sleep paralysis. And this, I don't really know if you can end up in sleep paralysis from this technique if you've never had sleep paralysis. Me, I've had sleep paralysis before, so it's not surprising that I ended up. I don't know if it can cause it in people who otherwise don't experience it. So what is sleep paralysis? So sleep paralysis, it's a state where essentially you are awake or almost awake, but your paralysis from sleep is not deactivated. So essentially what happens is that you wake up and the only thing... should we open?
The sleep paralysis demon.
Yeah, the sleep paralysis demon. Okay, yeah, so what happens usually is that you wake up and you find that you're unable to move your body. In my experience, it materializes as, it feels like I have an extremely heavy blanket which is transparent, and so I feel I cannot move. And you can still move, though, your eyelids and your eyes. Why? Because, of course, during REM, your eyes are not paralyzed, right? They move. So you can still move them during sleep paralysis. And yeah, so this state of sleep paralysis is completely safe. There is no threat to your body or to your health or to anything, but it is quite unpleasant, okay? And so this is not AI generated. This is an actual picture of a painter. And it depicts kind of sleep paralysis, what it looks like. So we'll see why. How do you get out? I will explain. Yeah. You usually just get out of it automatically, but you can force it. So yeah, so as we said, sleep paralysis is in between sleep and wakefulness. The brain, however, since it's kind of still dreaming, is able to conjure this dream imagery, right? So essentially, you are able to have hallucinations in this state. Depending on the people, it could be different types of hallucinations. And the unfortunate fact, it could be very nice. You could be paralyzed, sure, but then you have some nice moving playing in your living room or whatever. But it's not the case, okay? Somehow, most often, almost every time, these hallucinations are malicious or kind of scary. They're not usually nice.
Are you able to see in this if your room is not completely dark? Your eyes are open?
Yeah.
Your eyes were open. So
yeah, you can open your eyes. Your eyes are completely, you can do whatever you want with it.
So you were seeing hallucinations on top of the scene?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of augmented reality. Yeah, exactly.
I hesitate to use the word.
Yeah.
I don't know what's not being able to open my eyes.
That's also possible. Yeah, I guess it depends on people. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I could always, after a point, I stopped opening my eyes. But yeah, so yeah, there is some people, not for me. Some people feel like they cannot breathe properly because somehow the breathing is also regulated in REM. So if you start to panic, you kind of feel like you cannot breathe whenever you want to, and it can kind of be, you have the impression that you're suffocating, but you are not suffocating. It's the impression. And yeah, since your brain is here and it has all these dream powers, what it does is try to explain why you are suffocating. Okay, so what does it do? Well, it conjures a demon sitting on your chest and preventing you from sleeping, from breathing. Okay, so this is exactly this picture, right? This is exactly what this is picturing, right? So this happened to some people. For me, I have almost no visual hallucinations. It's mostly auditory hallucinations, and I don't have this breathing problem. And usually what I hear is a stereotypical kind of horror movie sounds, so kind of a witch laughing in the background or some demons telling me some mean stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, so my personal experience, I have a very fun anecdote about that. So I used to have sleep paralysis, let's say once a week when I was like between 13 and 20. Now almost not anymore. And usually it happens if you sleep on your back and if you disrupt your sleep schedule. This increases the prevalence of sleep paralysis. So I would always have sleep paralysis on the weekends because I would play World of Warcraft until 3 a.m. and then wake up at 12 and I'm greeted by a sleep paralysis demon. Right, so until I was 15, I thought this was just some sort of bad dream, right? I didn't know about sleep paralysis. I just thought, it's a dream where I dream that I'm paralyzed and then some things happen. But then, as I said, auditory, not visual. I found it strange that every single time in this dream, I was in my room, right? Would be paralyzed, look around, and these hallucinations in my ears. And so, some point, I think by chance or because I looked it up, I don't remember. This is what a depiction of my room, and I had some blinds like this. You know, the blinds that you can kind of half close. So one time I looked at the blind. It was during morning because it's at the end of REM as usual. And I saw the blinds, and I kind of made a point in my mind to remember what percentage of the blinds were lighted up by the light, exactly like this. So I just looked at this. Then I woke up from the sleep paralysis, and I looked at the blinds again, and I saw it was exactly the same as in my dream. So what I thought is just, okay, well, I find it very unlikely that my brain looked at the blinds before going to sleep, remembered how much they were closed, and then used that to make an accurate dream. No, it must mean that I was actually awake and I just saw the blinds. So I went on the internet and wrote, paralysis when you wake up or whatever. I found sleep paralysis, and obviously it was that. But it was very cool that, it was thanks to the blinds that I realized this. And okay, you might think that when you know what sleep paralysis is, it's a bit like lucid dreams. When you are in sleep paralysis, it's not like you think something is happening. You are conscious fully. You know that it's sleep paralysis. Despite that, it's very hard to make them nice. I had no success, and this might be explained by the fact that when you are wake up paralyzed, your body is feeling very vulnerable. So usually what happens is that your brain overactivates the parts of your brain that is responsible for the fight or flight kind of mechanism. And so it's almost always bad hallucinations. I've never had something good, but So I would say the likelihood of this happening if you've never had sleep paralysis is very low. And if it happens, it will only happen if you do this wild. With the other methods of lucid dreaming, if you've never had it, you will not get it. Okay, yes?
I just wanted to share that there's a short story by Haruki Murakami called Sleep, and that's how I learned about paralysis, because it's describing
this thing.
A Japanese
very nice.
And it's a very nicely written short story about it.
Okay, I will read it. Thank you. Another question?
How long does it last?
Okay, so this depends on people. Usually it's on the order of minutes. And I forgot to say that for most people, you can end it prematurely in the following way. Just pick a finger, for example, or on your toes, and you concentrate all your strength into moving this finger. So it will really feel like you're kind of trying to lift the finger with a huge rock on it. But in my experience, if you do it hard enough, you just move the finger and then you will be freed from the paralysis. So now that I know this trick, for me it lasts like maximum 10 seconds. And I've heard this trick works also for other people. So this I think I will just skip it. So just so you know, there are some masks that are supposed to help you for lucid dreaming. So you have some that have some electroencephalogram. They detect when you're in REM, and what they do, they kind of send subtle flashes of light. And in principle, if you're dreaming, you will translate these flashes of light in change of luminosity in the dream. And so this can kind of make you think that, okay, yeah. And most of these things were kind of funded through a Kickstarter, and most of these things, they haven't come out yet. I don't know of any of these devices which is kind of recommended by many people. They're all half scams, half things. Okay, so this is most of the interesting stuff I had to say. It's already very late, so I can continue on the last part. It will be 10 minutes more, or I can just stop here. And so should I continue or not? Yeah. Yes? Okay. So, I forgot to remove the E here. Oneironaut, yes. So now that you know all these things, this is essentially really all the techniques that you have about lucid dreaming. You may have some small other ones, but you basically know everything there is to know. So now that you've mastered this and you have many lucid dreams, there is the question of what can you do in lucid dreams and what you should do. What should you do? So the first thing to try is, of course, as I said, flying. There is an interesting thing to say about flying, is because it's something that we'll often notice in lucid dreams, that you might think that you know it's a dream, then you can do whatever you want, but it's not quite true. There are still things that are harder than other things. And typically you might find that you have trouble flying very high, right? You are able to fly, but just like 2 meters above the ground. And this is because somehow the more something is unnatural, so the more an experience in the dream is far removed from what you experience every day, the harder it will be to be done. Okay, but you have some tricks for that. So a trick for flying, for example, is just acting out that you are swimming in the air. So this makes it already much less unnatural, because you're used to swimming and kind of changing depth with swimming. So there is a huge chance that if you dream, you'll be able to fly as high as you want. Or you can kind of mimicking walking upstairs in the air. This will also work much better. Or you can just say, okay, let me find a jetpack. Oh, there's a jetpack here. Put the jetpack and use that. And this will work much better. Just because it's not as strange as just jumping and flying like this, right? All these, this is very cool and very strange. And usually this is that's why people say that there are different levels of lucidity. And they say when you are completely lucid, essentially you really can do everything you think, right? If I want to fly, I will fly. But maybe your lucidity is kind of partial. You don't really believe that you're able to do anything, and that's why maybe you cannot do it. But I think it's also very related to the fact that it's unnatural. And so it's harder for your brain to simulate this thing because it's kind of out of distribution in some way. So that's what I said. Okay, another cool thing is exploring some crazy places. So this has to do with the fact that even though you're lucid dreaming, you are not consciously constructing every part of the dream. So it could still be very cool to explore a place, a dream place, because you will not know what you will see. Okay, for example, you could think, okay, I want to explore some kind of crazy place, like I don't know, the Lord of the Rings place. I just want to see what the orcs are doing or whatever. And you just think that you go in this place, and then your brain will fill in the gaps, and you'll be surprised by what you see. Or I want to visit the moon, but there's an alien civilization on the moon. Then you go there will be the alien civilization, and you see what your brain comes up. You don't have to think about every detail. So that's very cool. And of course, for going to a place that you want to go, you could say, well, I will just teleport. But teleportation is, again, very unnatural. We have no kind of equal thing in real life. And so, again, you need to find some tricks to make it more natural. So one easy trick is just find a door wherever you are, and a closed door, and you think about what will be behind the door, and then you open the door. And then probably this will work to teleport you, right? Another thing is that mirrors often act like portals in dreams for some reason. So you can just think the mirror as a portal to your place and then enter the mirror. Or another thing is that you let your brain create the environment, but not in front of you. So you think, okay, behind me, there's this amazing place with all these incredible animals and stuff like that. You think about that, and then you turn around, and it will be there. Somehow you need you don't have to be so explicit. You cannot teleport. You cannot change your scenery like that, but you can achieve it. And this I've never tried, but some people talk about this on the forums. Is that you can choose a consistent location in your dream. It can be a real life location or a fantastic location, and try to make it kind of a dream home in which you kind of revisit many times during lucid dreams. And you can sort of store some stuff in this house. And people say that to some extent it will kind of preserve its state from one dream to another. I don't know how much it does, because I never tried this stuff, but that's something to think about. And sure, don't forget to explore also underwater or in space, right? You don't have to, you can breathe anywhere. So it's another experience which is very cool. Okay, maybe I'm influenced by the fact that I play video games. But one thing that I like is kind of trying to do superhuman stuff. So for example, so just give you some examples. This was when I was younger, now not so much anymore. I really like Dragon Ball, and so the character, they would do this kind of ray of light. And so this was kind of my first thing when I become lucid to kind of test also my degree of lucidity. Is okay, become lucid, okay, do a small Kamehameha, see if it works well. then I'm quite lucid. If I struggle to kind of summon it, maybe I have to kind of scream lucidity times 100. Other things I've tried is kind of become really gigantic and kind of take the planets and throw them around or crush them. This is quite fun. Another thing I like is kind of being at the head of an army, and then you're just the commander, and then you command the army. And usually I imagine myself as some sort of mage, so that I conjure like thunder over the enemy army and just kill everybody in one hit. It's a bit cheated, of course, but what can you do? So again, the power may be limited by the degree of lucidity. So I remember vividly, there was one lucid dream. My goal was to do really cool spells. Okay, I just want to try a lot of spells, do stuff, move things around, make fireballs. And I try my first spell, and it's a fireball. And I do the fireball, and there's kind of a small bit of fire that falls like that. And no matter what I try in this dream, I really couldn't kind of convince myself that I am able to do it. I had some powers, but they were really, really shitty. Yes?
You said you can't do stuff easily if it's not like day-to-day things.
Yes.
So do you think that it's because you play video games that you...
Probably it helps. Certainly it helps, I think. Yeah. So playing a video game where you do fireballs, then you have seen these things many times. And so it's clear how to do it in a game. Probably it helps a lot, yeah. I would say yes. Just try it in your dream if you don't play video games. Let me know.
Maybe with the flying, you should watch a lot of like superheroes
stuff. Yeah. So this is another thing that works, is kind of doing the Superman thing. This also helps for flying. Another thing which is very nice to do is to talk to dream characters. Okay, if you think about it, it's very strange because when you speak to a dream character, the answers of the character are made by your own brain, right? Despite that, you can have interesting conversations. It's not like I ask him something and then I think, oh yeah, he should answer that, and then he answers. No, you just answer from himself and you don't know what he will say. So it's kind of interesting to think about because essentially you are discussing live with your subconscious, and then you can ask him all sorts of stuff. So this is a thing that I haven't done too much. So I have here a picture with a dream character. So this is not AI generated, but you can meet him in your dreams if you want. Yes, so that's what I was saying. This I already said. So, and the other interesting thing is that the dream characters, they will be, to an extent, they will be kind of reasonable. So if you have a character which is an old man in your dreams, when you speak to him, he will kind of answer you as an old man. He will not say, hey, what's up, dude? How are you going? I mean, except if you want him to, he will. But if you just don't interfere and just ask, he won't.
Dumbledore?
Yeah, Dumbledore. Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It was nice in the dream, at least. So this, I have just a question to ask you to think about, is whether these dream characters are actually conscious. I think it's a very interesting question because in some way your consciousness is just created by your brain somehow. Somehow it arises from the process of your brain, but your dream character is exactly the same, right? Is some character with seemingly some personality and some thoughts, and these thoughts, they come from your brain. So would it be fair to say that they are conscious, or are they conscious in some way? I don't know, but it's an interesting question.
Are they?
Are they? I don't know. If you ask them, you might have different answers. And another thing you can try is talking to dream people about the fact that they are dream people. Okay. Natively, when you talk to dream people, they will just act as they would in the context of the dream. So Dumbledore acts as Dumbledore and so on. But you can tell them, oh, hey, you know that you're actually in my dream. What do you think about this? This can be very fun. So here I have an example from a dream that I had in my journal. So I had the first dream where somehow I was escaping from a friend because he was asking me for 400,000 euros per day because somehow his girlfriend was pregnant and this was necessary. So I just remember that was kind of escaping. It was a bit menacing. And at some point, too early. At some point, I just realized, actually, this is a dream. Just become lucid randomly, no reality check or whatever. And so I do my usual trick. I say, okay, I'll just make a fireball on the friend just to destroy him. I do the fireball, the friend disintegrates. And then I struggle to keep the dream together and I just wake up. But it's a false awakening, right? So I wake up in a hall and there are some people fighting in the hall. And I start trying to separate them to fighting. And then I just somehow realize again, actually, this is just another dream. And I did not do too many experiments with dream characters. Somehow it was taking a second place when I was experimenting. And so I say, okay, this is the perfect occasion. I have so many people here. You can just start talking to them. So I go to the first person and say, okay, why are you in my dream? I mean, what's the point? And he's just answered just one phrase, because you are. I don't know if you meant because you are in mine or something, but yeah. Then I go to another one and I ask him, okay, do you know that you are in my dream? I mean, are you aware of that? And what he answered is very funny, very surprising. He said, of course I know Frotor. Okay. So what is Frotor? Frotor is the pseudonym I was using for my character in World of Warcraft. And okay, it seemed I was also using it in all kinds of places on the internet. But it was kind of my pseudonym, and somehow the dream character decided to call me by my pseudonym for some reason. So just for reference, this is the character which the dream character was referring to, and hence the image depicting this thing. Yeah. So yeah, very unexpected things. I mean, I could never write a script where I think about that, like the dream character calling me by my video game name. Another thing that people advocate doing is to search for a dream guide. So a dream guide is a recurring character that somehow acts as a guide for the dreams. Okay, so what he can do is that you can ask him, for example, for suggestions on what to do in the dream, or talk with him about dreaming, etc. So just from how you make up this character in your mind, this character is a character which is self-aware. So he knows that he is a character in a dream and it's a guide. And so many people say that you should find your dream guide. And usually what you do is kind of, you can either choose a character and say, this guy will be my dream guide. This works. But it's more fun to just let your subconscious choose your dream guide for you, right? So just say, okay, behind this door will be my dream guide. You open the door and you see whoever is here, and then he becomes your dream guide. Or if you don't like him, you just change him. But so I don't have a dream guide because somehow I looked at my dream journal and there were many, many lucid dreams where I was looking for the dream guide and I was unable to find him somehow. But okay, I will find him eventually. And some people, they say, I don't know if this works or not, they say that they meet their dream guide and they tell them, okay, whenever I dream, you should come in the dream and just kind of tell me, hey, dude, you are dreaming. Become lucid now, right? So they just say to the dream character, your job is to make me become lucid. They say that it works. I cannot attest whether it does or not. Yeah. Okay, that's another thing to do. Another fun thing is transforming into other animals or shape, because this is something very strange, right? Because you can transform in some sort of dinosaur or an eagle or anything, and your brain will try to make it feel like you have this different body shape. So it's a very strange experience. You kind of feel like you have this different body shape, and it's very interesting. So I've tried a few things. I really like Jurassic Park, so I did Velociraptor many times. Then the fish or a cetacean can be very cool also, to just swim in the sea with this fish body. And then flying animals, of course, like eagles, dragons, and so on.
So it's easier for dragons to fly than for you to fly?
I guess it would be, yeah. I don't recall having trouble flying in a flying form, yeah. Right, and then one other thing which I haven't experimented at all with is just using your dreams exactly for thinking about some problems you have, either math problems, research problems, or other problems in life. What's clear is that it's certainly a good ground to brainstorm, okay? Because your brain is in a very different state than your usual state, so you will probably have some uncommon ideas or some things that you haven't thought about.
So what's the primitive of a bathroom?
Yeah, that's a good question. I could answer you if I was in the dream, but not anymore. So some people say that they use lucid dreams to kind of think about new ideas or stuff like that. Personally, for computation specifically, for me, it's impossible to do. Like every time I try to write something down, it's just, I cannot follow it. I have very hard time remembering 3 numbers in a row. But this may be people dependent, of course. So this was just an anecdote, but it's not really related to dreams. So ask me about it later if you want. But so the last thing before you ask is that having sex in lucid dreams, it is possible, right? But it's apparently very hard to do. And the reason is simply because I said that when you're in a lucid dream, you should not get too excited. You should remain calm. Otherwise you will wake up. So that's usually what happens. So for me, I haven't tried too much because in the forums, everybody says, okay, do not try this stuff. It's useless. You will just wake up and you just lose your occasion of doing lucid dreaming. Additionally, okay, it's not something as novel as turning into a velociraptor. So it's not so interesting to me. But yes, if you are wondering, it is definitely possible. I mean, there are wet dreams. You can turn a lucid dream in a wet dream in some sense. And I think it was somehow studied by Laberge. So he somehow looked at the differences between sex in dreams. Anyway, so I just include this. I don't have anything particularly smart to say about it. It's just that I'm sure that it's some question in people's minds. And so, yeah. So it is possible. It's hard to not wake up from it. And I think there are more interesting to do before this, but to each his own. So one last slide just to finish about the science of lucid dreaming. So I talked about this Laberge guy quite a bit. So lucid dreaming is actually not a very recent phenomenon. It has been known for a very, very long time. So there is some Hindu, I don't know if it's in a religion or something, but they have something called Yoga Nidra, which is dream yoga. And it's literally training to have lucid dreams, okay? And so they clearly have lucid dreams. They have this whole procedure. They also have techniques that are similar to the one I talked to you about. They are also claiming that they are able to remain conscious during the full 4 phases of sleep, which I think it's bullshit, but they are claiming that they are able to do that. But anyway, that was just a small thing. And then Aristotle also has a quote somewhere in his writing where he talks about specifically the experience of recognize that you are dreaming. So this is not something new, but the first time it was actually studied in a lab was in the 1980s by this guy, Stéphane Laberge. And actually he's the one who realized, as far as I know, that dreams happen in REM, okay? And the cool thing that he did is the fact that, okay, when you're in a dream, if you move your eyes in the dream, they will move in real life, okay? So what he did is exploit that to have a communication with the dreamer as he's dreaming. So he would tell the guy, okay, when you get lucid, what you do is that you're gonna make a cross sign with your eyes, right? You're gonna move your eyes up and down and then left to right. And he would record the eyes of the person dreaming. And that way he could do some experiments. So for example, he checked to see if the time elapsed in dreams is the same as the time elapsed in real life. So you often feel like sometimes you feel like dreams were like super long, or sometimes you feel you have a super short dream, but it lasted actually 20 minutes. So you might think that maybe the time perception is different. But what he did is ask people, okay, whenever you lucid dream, do a cross with the eyes, count to 10, then do another cross. And we just timed this in his lab. And what he found is that it's essentially the same. So 1 second in the dream is 1 second in real time. The perception of time might be very different, but as far as counting goes, it's the same.
In lucid dream.
In lucid dream, yeah. Of course, testing in real dreams is complicated. But since they're reasonably close, but yeah, you're right. Yeah. Then there was this other guy, Paul Foley, which I believe is the one who invented these reality checks to go in lucid dreams. And what he did is experiment about what are the abilities of the people in the dream. So he would go in the dream and ask people in his dream, okay, what's 5 plus 10? Or what's 52 plus 35? And his conclusion was that they are better at tasks involving language than at tasks involving computations. And more recently, there was one study in 2019 which tried giving people galantamine, which is some drug that increases some neurotransmitter in your brain, and is usually used as a treatment for people with Alzheimer. But they just tried to give it to people to see how it affects lucid dreaming, and they saw a great increase in lucid dreams, like plus 42%. I don't think it will be commercial anytime soon because you look at the side effect and it's like diarrhea, vomiting, nausea. I don't think it's worth it. And then also some experiments recently have been done where you really had a two-way dream communication. So the experimenter would kind of give some flashes of light on the dreamer to communicate a math problem, like a simple addition. Then the dreamer would do the addition and then communicate back the result by moving the eyes. So in that way, they could kind of communicate with the dreamer in real time from the dream, which is really cool, I think. And okay, so I plan to finish a bit earlier, but I put up a simple script that will just scroll my dream journal on the screen. So if you want to read it, but it's in French, so one thing which is interesting is to see we have quite a good sample size. So it will be interesting to see if anybody has a lucid dream either today or in the next few days, which I think it's not at all unlikely. Might be also me, but yeah. And that's it. Thanks for listening. Okay, so I should release the people, so you're free to go now. If you have questions, you can just stop. So we'll just leave here.